change, I know it. I can see it all so clear.
Hey everyone, welcome to the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Today's guest is an indie singer-songwriter based in Sacramento, California. You need to go listen to her new debut album, Bathing in Yesterday's Fires. But before we get the episode started, please make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And also don't forget to follow me at Parker Whirling and at onthatnote_podcast on Instagram. And on that note, please welcome Lindsey Bitson. I'm sitting here with Lindsey Bitson, an indie singer-songwriter based in Sacramento, California. Congratulations on the release of your debut album, Bathing in Yesterday's Fires, which came out July 30th. If you're listening to this right now and haven't heard it, you have to go check it out. You worked with John Joseph, who produced it, and really cool producer. It was awesome to learn that you guys worked together on this. I love usually asking about the writing and recording process first. So what was the writing and recording process going into this? Maybe some conversations you guys had about the album before you started, and then maybe some lessons that you learned along the way.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. The album was like a long time coming. I had been just kind of making music. I hadn't really even been making music that long, to be honest. Like, I think I started when I was like 23 and I'm 29 now. I may have been like 24. I don't know. But I had just been writing songs like alone in my room. I was like really afraid to share my music with people because I thought it was really like lame. And I finally like drunkenly one night did an open mic at this bar, and like it was like moderately well received. So I was like, okay, I'll start like actually singing my songs to people. And I started like building up a collection of songs that I felt like was an album, but I just kind of kept it to myself, and I slowly started introducing bandmates who kind of like filled out the songs with me and made them a lot bigger. And like what you hear in the album, you know, just kind of like it's just like this large sound as opposed to like my kind of singer-songwriter in my bedroom, like super simple sound. And I saw Mini Trees. John Joseph produces Mini Trees, and I was just like, I wonder who produced this person, because this is fucking incredible. And I reached out to him kind of in a long shot. It was during the pandemic. He was super, super cool, and I ended up heading to LA to record with him all these songs that I had been working with the band in Sacramento. And it was literally the best week of my fucking life. Like, we had so much fun. It couldn't have gone more smoothly. I mean, like in the weeks coming up to the album was like nothing but chaos. Like, all of my bandmates like ended up not coming with me when I expected it to be like a live session thing with all of us coming. And I was obviously devastated, and I was worried about how the album would come out. But so I ended up having to hire all these musicians in LA to make the album. But it was like the best thing that could have happened, because we just like, it was so efficient and we vibed so much making it. And I'm just so proud of what we made. To me, it's such a, it's like years of being afraid to share with people and keeping to myself, and not even really believing that like I could record with someone like John, who I feel like is so talented and just so cool. And it felt so good afterward to have this album made. So yeah, and so it's out now, and it's going like relatively well. So I feel pretty good about it.
I do love the album. It's produced very well. Did you already have an idea of how you wanted everything to sound when you got there, or was it kind of an exploration?
Yeah, I definitely had an idea of what I wanted it to sound like when I got there, but it didn't come out at all like that idea. But I I knew that was going to happen because I picked John specifically for his like unique perspective and style, and I really liked that about him, and I knew that he would put his spin on it. So like I did sort of have a rough idea of how I wanted it to sound, but I also was really open to like what John wanted to do with it. And so it came out way, 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 way differently than I would have ever expected. It turned a lot more like spacious and dreamy, and it had these huge moments that I wasn't expecting, but they just sounded so cool, and I'm so happy with the partnership that we had together.
Was there a specific song that you feel like just took a totally different direction once you completed it?
Oh, definitely. The song Everything, like it's so funny. Like John played the song back for me after we had finished it, and it was just like, it was almost silly how different it was. Like going in, it was this sort of like upbeat, kind of like happy, um, almost like country kind of song. Like I don't know. I didn't even think it was gonna make the cut. Like it just kind of bothered me. It was just way too happy. Like it didn't really match with the lyrics. And he was like, "Let's make it really sad." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it." And he pulled out some chords, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is fucking god!" I was so excited. It was just incredible. I was so excited with what he did with it, and very surprised.
That's the best feeling when that happens, when something totally changes from what you expected it to be. Was it hard at all to allow someone else to like work on your stuff like that, or was it pretty much like, oh, like please take this and do with it what you will?
I think like where I was at as a musician, I was so afraid of asserting myself, and like I didn't really know what I was doing, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. So it felt like relieving to put my album into the hands of someone that I really trusted and really believed in. And I knew that he was going to make it something really beautiful. And it also, being in that process with him and working I learned so much about myself and what I want, and like how I can approach albums in the future. But yeah, he did something just amazing for me. He gave me such a gift by like really building it into this big project, and making this sound something I could have never achieved on my own. But like, yeah, I'm just really happy to have worked with him.
I think you hit the nail on the head saying how much you trust him, because when it comes to working with people, especially if it's on your music, it takes a lot of trust and faith in someone to believe that they are going to give it the proper love and attention that it deserves. Because there's a lot of people that would rather maybe work on their own stuff, and it's like, oh well, yeah, this is just someone else's thing, so I'll just kind of give it a shot. But to know that somebody is going to put their effort into it, like all their effort into it, has got to be a very comforting feeling. Did you have any specific challenges you had to go through that went into making your debut album?
In creating the album or in making the album?
Either or.
Sorry, I lost you there for a second. Either or.
Either
Okay.
or.
Um, yeah, I think the biggest challenge, if I'm being frank, is like money. Like money always is like there's never enough, things always cost more. Like I just want to make like the best album possible. That's how I feel. Like I really, really do feel that way. All I want to do is just like work with the person who I feel like is going to like best honor the songs and make a piece of work that really like stands out and is well done. And there's just always everything costs so much fucking money. Like that's what it is. I don't know. Like I always like find a way, but man, I mean, it feels like a losing game. Like just getting your music out there. What I've noticed is like you just have to pay a shit ton of people a shit ton of money in order to, I mean, there are exceptions to that. Like I know people who just like got discovered somehow, but like yeah, you know, you have to pay for advertising and marketing and these things I didn't even really think about when I was making the album. I was just like, I really want to make an album. I'm going to make an album. And then I realized, okay, what am I going to do with this album? Like, I want people to hear it. So I'm going to create content and take pictures and like post to my Instagram, even though I like didn't really like posting that much. And then I have to keep that up, you know? And for me, that's probably the biggest challenge. Just like, I'm not the most consistent person. Like, I'll be really good for 3 weeks, like posting and, you know, trying to get my music out there. And then I'm just like so disillusioned and tired. And I just like don't want to do anything. So I get in those ruts and I'm like, I feel so like kind of beaten down, like, I say like so much. Jesus, I'm so sorry. Whoever listens to this is just like 90% likes. Anyways, yes, money and taking the time to like really put my music out there.
Yeah, that it's funny how the best part obviously is the making of the music, and then you have to do all the shit on the back end that you'd rather just have some assistant do for you, but like who's gonna do that?
I know.
For, you know, people in
I
our
know. I'm
position?
like, yeah, like I don't have the money to pay someone to, and nobody has reached out to me. They're like, hey, let me, you know, market for you. I mean, for free.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So it would be really nice. Eventually, hopefully, that's kind of the goal, is not obviously for free, but to be in a partnership with like a label or something
Right.
who can really get you where you need to go. But yeah, it's rough.
You kind of touched on something that I'd read in your Secret Eclectic interview, where you talked about Spotify. They asked you, do you think Spotify is like the new gatekeepers? And you said that you thought so, and I kind of have to agree, because it's just interesting to me, because it's very confusing, it's very frustrating to get people to hear my own music. And I discovered you through Spotify's Fresh Finds Indie playlist, which is, you know, congratulations for getting placed on there. It is crazy that some people get on there and it's their first song. Like, I don't get that. And I have so many questions, like, how does this happen? How do you get on this playlist? How do you get on any of these kinds of playlists that get your music heard? And it can be very frustrating, and it does piss me off. But on the other hand, it's like, if Spotify wasn't doing this, there's a lot of people I wouldn't be able to listen to, like you and a lot of pretty much almost all the guests I've had on the show. So it feels like a double-edged sword in that way. What advice would you give to a new artist regarding navigating the Spotify landscape? Have you learned anything over the last few years of doing this?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like I was saying earlier about marketing, like it's so important. It's so important. There are a lot of people, I will say, who put out a bunch of singles and over time they end up on a Spotify playlist. That's like the number one way to do it, without marketing. I had this whole album, you know, and I didn't want to put out singles because that felt really weird to me. I made it as an album. If I put it out as a bunch of singles, to me it kind of like destroys the project, which I don't know if that's annoying or not, but that's how I feel about it. So I was like, okay, what's my alternative to putting out a bunch of singles? And so I got reached out. Someone reached out to me for marketing like a couple weeks before I dropped the album, because I didn't really even know where to begin with that. I think I put out 2 singles. So they saw one of my singles that got like moderately picked up by the algorithm. So it did like fairly well. And they had some sort of connection to someone on Spotify, I think is how I ended up on the playlist. So that's definitely my number one recommendation if you're not going the singles route, is to find somebody and do like at least, I don't know, $500 of marketing, which sounds like a lot, but it goes really far. Like that almost guarantees listens. It depends on like what someone's goal is. You know, I want long-term following. I want to like make a career out of music, so I'm not really necessarily looking for listens, but a viewership, you know, like but like marketing is really what is fueling, in my opinion, people getting all these views. If you see someone, with one single and like 170,000 views, like the odds are that they had some sort of relationship with a marketing company.
Yeah, it is. That's very practical advice because, you can put a lot of money and effort into the music, of course, and maybe even a video. But if you're not putting any money into the marketing aspect, the chances of anybody hearing your stuff are pretty slim.
Yeah. I've talked to a lot of people who, feel above marketing, or they think like, oh, they don't want to play into the game. But for me, I don't want to. I basically have two jobs right now. I work full time, and then I have this second job that pays me absolutely like no money. So it's like, it's important to me to have the space and time to create. And so, yeah, I don't love capitalism, and I don't love being in a system where I have to sell myself in order to make enough money so that I don't have to constantly work two jobs. But it's just the way that it is. And I would love to make a career out of making music. It would just be super, super fucking fun.
It would be super fucking fun. And what's interesting about that is I think there's so many different avenues that you can sell yourself, quote unquote, or do things like that. Like, you don't have to do exactly what you think is, like, I don't know, the perfect plan. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but you don't have to like always sell your soul. Like, you can find ways around that make you feel happy about what you're doing, but also accomplish what you're trying to get done, right?
Oh, for sure. I just saw Faye Webster. She has her own like beer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's themed from her album. I'm like, that sounds fucking amazing. I would love to do something like that. I think there's so many opportunities to, make it palatable and like not so icky. So I try to do that as best I can, and like not oversell myself online, because that also feels very icky too.
Yeah, it can get to a point where you feel like you just don't want to keep seeing your face over and over and over again.
So that's where I'm at right now. I like don't want to post anything. I'm just so sick of it. I just really want people to listen to the music. I'm, whatever.
Exactly. So you also said in your Secret Eclectic interview, you were talking about your song Myself, which is the last song on the album, saying it essentially felt like liberated from the prison of your own mind, I think was the quote. So do you remember a specific moment when writing that where it felt like that liberation like became real, became clear?
I don't know if I put myself back in like the moment when I was writing that song. It was just such a transformative time for me. I wouldn't say it was like a moment as so much as it was like a phase of my life where like I was just fully on drugs for so long. Like I didn't even know who I was or what I was doing. And like I think I had like gotten off of the drugs. Like it must have been, I don't know, a year and a half at that point, and I was really just starting to connect with myself and my authenticity and feeling less just like I was in a dream or I wasn't even really living. And so I just started to explore who I really was and what I really believed, and built my confidence out of nothing. I had nothing, literally nothing. And that's where that song came from, was this place of like rebirth and exploration of myself, and focus on myself. I feel like we have this weird thing in our society where like everyone, don't be selfish, like, don't be selfish. I think it's so important because we're looking at the whole world from the lens of ourselves. Like there's no other person. We can empathize and we can sympathize and we can think about others, and obviously that's important, but at the end of the day, we have to figure out who we are and who I am and what I want and and what's fueling my motivations before I go out and I focus on other people. And that's the place where I was at, just like really getting down to like why I am the way I am and how to overcome some of these like old weird behavioral patterns that I was surviving in order to live. It was a really long-winded answer, but
No, hey, it's a podcast. We love long-winded answers.
yeah.
But you're so right. It's so important to take care of yourself first, because if you don't, it's that old, cliche of like, if your cup's not full, how can you fill someone else's? And it's that, what's funny is like you can know that in your head, and it doesn't stick all the time. You'd rather, I don't know, like fall into old habits or fall into old patterns, and because it's easier, it's what you know. But if you can break that cycle, not that it's easy, then like it's so much more helpful for you going forward. And if it's helpful for you, then you can do what you can to like spread light out into the world, as cheesy as that sounds. How much was music in general a part of this rebirth phase?
I mean, I always talk like I'm the cheesiest person. It literally saved my life. That's how I feel about music. The whole origin story of me writing music was that like I was in probably like my fifth rehab at the time, and I always thought like if I just had something cool to do, like I would be fine. Like if I just had a passion, that I would be okay. And I kept trying different things. At one point I was like, oh, I'm a writer. And then I'm like, oh, I'm a stand-up comedian, but I'm honestly really not that funny. So I don't know why I thought that was an avenue I could go down. Like if I tried to be funny in public, I would fail. I don't know. I just clam up. Anyways, I tried so many different things, and music was one of those avenues that as a kid I got shut down. I was literally bullied in middle school because I did this I did this thing called Pastor Idol at my middle school, and it was like on our morning announcements where everyone sang vis-a-vis American Idol. Like we had like a little like Pastor Idol. Anyways, I sang on it, and people would like come up to me and make fun of me. And, it's fucking brave. I'm sorry, looking back, it is brave to go on your morning announcements and sing a song. Like, I wish I had someone hyping me up at the time, because, like, so many people came up to me and just made me feel so silly and so stupid. And I was like, okay, like, note to self, never sing again. This is really dumb.
Kids are brutal.
Middle school is the most brutal. I should have kept it to myself. Like, I knew these people were all assholes. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyways, I was in rehab, and this one guy in rehab knew guitar, and he started writing down chords and shit for me on paper, because we weren't like allowed to have phones or anything. And my dad bought me some like starter guitar, which is actually right next to me. It's sentimental. I can't get rid of it. And I was so bad, obviously. No, I don't think anyone's good when they start playing guitar.
No.
And
I teach guitar, and that is so true. Nobody's good when they start guitar.
I know people always say like, oh, how do you play guitar? It's so hard. I tried and I couldn't do it. And I was like, you just have to. My tattoo artist said to me, literally, I just like sat in my room. I just kept playing and I kept playing. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I just sat in my room and played guitar. And I'm still not very fucking good at guitar, to be honest. But, oh yeah. So anyways, yeah, now I play music all the time. It just took a lot of little moments of confidence building and sharing with people who I felt were safe and weren't going to make fun of me.
Yeah, it's funny how it's not one big like epiphany. It's these little things you have to do and have to realize along the way that shape the kind of person and the kind of artist you end up becoming, and you're never really done with it either.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's just finding the thing that really makes you want to do more of it. Some people commit to the wrong art or the wrong whatever because they think it's what they're supposed to be doing, and then they kind of get stuck. But I feel like with guitar, and especially with songwriting, really, like I love guitar, but it's just like the medium for me to write songs. Like songwriting is the thing that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and partnering with people who can bring your vision to life, like almost like you're the director, seems to be the move for me. And it sounds like for you, it took me a while to get there. I wanted to do everything, and I just kind of realized over the last year that as much as I'd still love to do that, it's very helpful to have people who are so much better than me at something offer their assistance, and at the end we create something that's like so much better than I could have done on my own.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to say about like the group dynamic and how important it is to rely on other people. And you know, I could try to do everything on my own. Like I have Ableton, I've tried to record my own shit, but at the end of the day, like it's not what I'm passionate about, and I would be pushing myself way too hard to try to do that when I just would rather write songs and trust people like John to, you know, make them into something really beautiful. And it's just more fun for me that way. I think music is supposed to be fun. I don't think it's supposed to be this like arduous task all the time. You know, some people just burn out trying to create, and I don't want it to be that way. I like to go back to the capitalist thing. You know, I hate the idea of just constantly making everything just to like make money. You know, everything is just always about like just like how can I work enough to like make the money and like be happy. You know, I just want to have fun. I want to have fun all the time.
I wish we could just have fun all the time. That would be a perfect world.
I'm gonna make it happen, so you'll see.
I believe in you. You should be president.
Okay, I'm like, yeah, I'll run on the platform of fun.
Yeah. Who wouldn't get behind that?
You guys, we're just gonna have fun. You know, if there's something I know, everybody loves to have fun. You, me, everyone. Let's all just have fun.
That's true. I think everyone can get behind that. So switching things to something that maybe not be as fun, but your lyrics are they're very stark. They're very unapologetically honest, which is really refreshing. I feel like you're not wrapping up a lot of your experiences in like metaphors and things like that, and like crazy, like outlandish imagery. It's very like upfront. Did you find it difficult to share these lyrics with people?
It's funny you say that, because in this next album compared to the first album, I'm like even more direct. And so the first one, I felt like I really sort of reeled it in a little because I was afraid, you know, like I have bosses and parents and family who listen to my music, and I'm afraid like I don't care about how strangers are going to perceive it because they don't know me.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter to me. But for some reason, when the thought of like my family friend listening to my album and talking about how I do cocaine, like, or whatever it is, there's sexual shit, like I'm like so mortified. So I reeled it in a lot. In my opinion, for the second one is really, if you thought that, this one's like, okay, honey, you're oversharing at this point.
That's awesome. Wow. So what did it feel liberating to do that? And that's why you want to go even harder on the second one?
Oh, absolutely. Like, and I think I've grown a lot since I made the first album, where I'm still like that, where I'm so concerned about how others perceive me, but way less than where I was at when I recorded the first one. Like, I used to be so anxious all the fucking time, and most of it revolved around like how others perceive me. There were so many other things, but like that's a really big one that stuck around. And so I think I held back so much because I was afraid of sharing too much, or people thinking less of me, or whatever it was going to be, that I kind of kept it, or I wanted people to like the music too. There was that aspect as well. So I don't think I was as forthcoming as I would have been. But now that I have that album down and I put it out, like if I could do that, I'm like, oh, I can push it further. You know what I mean? Like I could go further with this, and I'm playing with the battery. I literally I can't. I'm such a fidgeter. Anyways.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the next one.
Yeah, me too. It is funny. Nobody tells you, like, when you put out music, that if you want to be brutally honest, that, oh, yeah, like, people you know are going to fucking listen to it, and then they're going to probably think whatever they think about it, and you can't control that.
Whatever. Yeah, I cared in the beginning, but now I'm like, it hinders my whole creative process, and it changes the what I'm creating when I'm caring about what others think about it, and to my detriment, it doesn't really matter what they think.
Yeah, you got to try to set that aside as much as you can. And it's funny because I keep saying it's funny, but it is funny. Like artists that you and I love, write songs that are brutally honest, whether in a good way or talking about things that are hard, and we connect to them, and it's why we want to hear it, is because you get that catharsis. But it doesn't mean it's easy for them. You don't really put yourself in those shoes until you do, and then you're like, oh shit, this is hard.
Yeah, I think that's one of the motivations of pushing through that fear and discomfort, is like knowing that there's people before me, like who really laid it out there and made it possible for me to do what I'm doing today.
Yeah, it's like passing on the torch.
Like Angel Olsen. Shout out to Angel Olsen if you're listening.
Hey, she's awesome. I need to get more into her.
I think one of my biggest motivation, or like, what's it called? Someone who, role models, I guess you could say, was, I forget her name, but she's the lead singer of Mothers. I mean, that is one of the rawest fucking albums, bands, whatever I ever listened to. And it just changed the way I perceived songwriting and creation. And yeah, she really changed the way that I emote when I sing too.
Wow. So when you're writing lyrics, are you coming at it knowing what you want to say and then you're putting it together? Or is it almost like discovering how you feel about something while you're writing it?
Oh, 100% the second thing. It's sort of this, either I'll play a chord or I'll have a feeling that's coming up and I'll just sit down and I'll associate like the sounds of the chords with how I'm feeling kind of. And then I slowly kind of piece together a song over a week. It normally takes about a week. Sometimes it takes just one night. It depends on like where I'm at or if I've gotten the chords figured out just right, because that can be a little bit tricky. But yeah, it's all revolves around a feeling or like a group of feelings or a story. Some songs that I write revolve around something that had happened to me, like Reason was about a particular relationship. And in the song, I say like, oh, it's a good thing you don't recognize me. But it's not that he literally saw me on the street. It was that like he just stopped like giving a fuck about me, and stopped really like checking in or like looking into what I was doing. And I was definitely still looking into what he was doing. So I was like, cool. Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm still here, but no biggie, dude. No biggie.
And this was something you kind of realized while you were writing it?
Yeah, for sure. They're all like that. It's just like, it was the feeling of longing, wishing this person was still in my life and they're not, and wishing that they cared as much as I cared, but they don't. And I was encapsulating that feeling that I had, because it's so painful when somebody isn't interacting with me with the way I want them to, like when someone's not texting me back or, someone's not like maintaining a friendship or a relationship. It's just so hard, like being ghosted or whatever, it's so fucking painful, because all I wanted was that person like to get back to me. And like, they just won't do that. They don't care enough to do that. They don't care enough about me to do that. And that fucking hurts. So that was sort of like that song.
Yeah. It sucks to not get the reciprocation you feel like you deserve. And as much as it hurts in the moment when those kinds of things have happened to me, or when you bury yourself down because you don't want to make an issue about something, it fucks you up in the moment, but it allows you the perspective later on in life to recognize that behavior when it happens from someone else or even from yourself, and you can course correct to make sure that things don't go the same way they did earlier. That kind of harkens back to what we were talking about earlier about breaking patterns and cycles that you see yourself getting into.
Although I still tend to get in some nasty patterns.
Well, yeah.
I try not to, but then I'm like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this person. I just love them. I love everything about them. And there's like red flags just like hanging all over them and really all over me too. And I'm like, whatever, let's just do it anyway.
Yeah, I wish it was a quick process. You could just figure shit out, but it's just so not that.
I beat myself up all the time because I'm like, I should be better than this. Like, I should be smarter. I should be wiser. I do so much work on myself. And like, here I am making some of the same mistakes I was making when I was in my early 20s. But I think there's so much to be said about self-forgiveness and not being and self-judgment. It's not helping me to like hate myself and judge myself for every mistake I make. Like, oh, I made a mistake. Like, good news. I'm fucking human. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I never do that at the time. At the time, I'm like, you stupid idiot! No.
Banging your head against the wall.
Literally.
Well, I think these songs, really help you figure your own self out, because it's almost like, for me, it's like not me speaking these words or writing down these words. It's like this consciousness somewhere out there that tells you like, oh, that's it. That's what you have to write. And then you're just left with these lyrics that mean something to you, and you're kind of wondering like, how did it get there?
Yeah. I like that. It reminds me of somebody I heard recently say on TikTok, it's coming in to come out. And I love that idea, like if there's a really hard feeling coming up for me, like it's coming up for a reason, and there's something that I need to do with it. Either I bottle it up and I hold it in my body and I create tension and anxiety and I worry, or I let it come out. It can come out through a song, it can come out through meditation or whatever I'm doing to make it come through me and out of me so that I can heal and I can move on. And I think that's a lot of what the songwriting process is about.
Yeah. Very well said to whoever put that on TikTok.
I know.
Awesome. Well, that's going to take us over to the last 5 here, where I'm just going to ask you 5 questions and we'll be done. Question number 1 is, in the studio or playing live?
Studio, 100%. 100%. Oh, I love it.
It's a little more.
If I could just do that, I'm like, I mean, I like doing shows, but like, all of the variables of the sound quality, I think, is really shitty. Like some venues, it sounds so bad. Like, this isn't good. I don't know what you're hearing, but it doesn't sound good to me.
It's a lot easier to control things in the studio environment. Question number 2 is, what do you think is a perfect album front to back?
Ooh, just fucking emotional, authentic, real, not trying to be something, but it just, like we were saying, it just comes out, and it's just, there's so many albums I can think of that it just felt like so natural and organic and authentic to the artist, and that's really what I gravitate towards.
So what would be some examples of these perfect albums?
So Angel Olsen, I mentioned earlier, Burn Your Fire for No Witness is one of my favorite albums of all time. Just fucking incredible. I think it's called When You Walk a Long Ways You Get Tired or something like that, by Mothers. I just probably butchered that. So, oh well, it's by Mothers. It's one of my favorite albums. Just incredible front to back. This is so unoriginal, but Pet Sounds is just one of my all-time favorites by the It's just like something that was like meant to be, it just like, it felt so organic and it came together so nicely. Yeah, there's so many, but those are just top 3 I can think of now.
Top 3. I don't think anybody can argue with Pet Sounds. I mean, you'd be a real asshole to argue with that.
I know, you would. Don't do it, anyone.
Don't do it. I had never heard Mothers before, so I'll have to listen to that.
Oh, you have to. It's amazing.
Nice. Question number 3.
Georgia. They live in Athens.
No way.
I
Really?
think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Maybe they'll play a show around there sometime. That'd be cool. Question number 3 is, who's your dream artist or producer to work with?
Ooh, I forget his name, but he worked with Adrian Lanker and Big Thief. I love his production. I looked him up. I was like, oh, maybe I can work with him, but he works with like really big artists. I was like, that is not going to happen.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah, for sure. He's like working, I think, with like Phoebe Bridgers and King Princess and everything
huge.
at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, so he's like top level at this point, but I wish I knew his name. Oh well. But and then the guy who might be working on my album, I really love. His name's Matt Martins. I'm really excited. Hopefully, we get that put together soon.
And that's
so
the guy
he's pretty incredible.
in Georgia?
He's in Georgia. He's in Georgia now. He's in Athens, but he's moving to Nashville. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you'll work with him, but you're just not quite sure the location quite yet.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, I hope it's Georgia. You won't be too far from me.
I know.
Question number 4 is, what's on your musical rotation right now?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I have my phone with me right here. On the top of my head, Indigo D'Souza just came out with an album. It's fucking amazing. She is incredible. Everyone needs to. She's getting so famous right now. Everyone needs to listen to that. And my on repeat there's this like affirmations album that I've been listening to on repeat. So
Affirmation, like actual
it's like
affirmations?
No, it's like an affirmations album. So it's like kind of like, her name is Tony Jones. She's just incredible. I love her so much. And Mini Trees just came out with an album, the band that got me to record with John Joseph. So everyone needs to go listen to that too. So good. And then also Black Midi has been one of my big ones.
Really?
Which is
wow, that came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that.
I know. So I've been hanging out with someone who listens to a lot of like post-punk and shit, and he just kind of like revitalized my desire to listen to stuff like that.
Very cool. So you're listening to the new album of theirs?
Yeah, I've been doing the new album lately.
Gotcha.
But the first song that got them kind of recognized, it's like BM.
Right.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I don't know if that's lame, but it is.
No, I mean, it's a great song. That whole their shit blows me away. I'm like, who thinks of this?
Exactly. It's crazy. I love it so much. I can't believe there's somebody out there that makes it, and it honestly motivates me to push myself to be more dissonant and to find more interesting spaces in songwriting and in music making, and be more unapologetic about my perspective. It's just incredible what they do. I mean, if anyone's listening and they haven't heard Black Midi, you have to hear it. It's like nothing else you've ever heard before.
Yeah, the musicianship is like just insane. It makes
unparalleled,
me want to quit.
yeah.
I'm like, how is anyone this good?
I know. I was like, okay, I think I'm done here. Like, these guys, they said all that's need to be said. Right. So I'm gonna go.
And then the last question here is, what's your favorite decade of music?
I love what's happening right now. People love to shit on modern music sometimes. There's so many good artists like Fontaine's DC and Parquet Courts and Indigo D'Souza and Angel Olsen and whatever else I can think of right now. Just there's so much good shit I'm obsessed with. I love, like jazz, like Billie Holiday. I don't know, is that the 50s, the 40s, 20? I have no idea. I have no idea where that came from, but I love to listen to that. I love classical. And I love, like, my parents grew up in the 50s or 60s, so I listen to a lot of like 50s and 60s music as well.
So kind of all over the place. If you had to pick one decade, though.
One? Shit.
Would it be easier to pick one that's gotta go?
Yeah. I don't mean to be a jerk, but I just don't like the 80s.
No, I'm with you. I knew you were gonna say
I
that.
know. I don't know if I know that's not an original thought, but I don't like the clothes. I think that they're ridiculous. The music didn't really do much for me either. Like, just, oh God, I could send it away and I wouldn't care one bit.
I'm with you. I've had a good few people on the show that say 80s is their favorite decade, hands down. I just have to be like, yeah. Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I know. I love so much love to anyone who loves the 80s. You guys, it's cool. We all have different tastes. It's absolutely subjective, but there's something about it that makes me want to like throw up.
Yeah. I feel like in terms of music that was really at the top of the charts, 80s is like the worst. I mean,
oh God,
they have some great songs that weren't top of the charts, but like the number ones and not like the top 10s every year, I think in general, there was some sleazy, not great songs.
Although I would argue that that's definitely akin to now. Like, I think like,
oh yeah, true.
No offense to anyone who really likes like the top 10. When I hear it, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, who is listening to this? This isn't good. I sound like such a dick. I don't mean to be a dick, but
You're not.
I said it. It was said. I can't take it back.
I always have to pick 2010s, honestly. Like, I just think
to get rid of?
Oh, no. That's my
Your
favorite.
favorites. Okay,
Just
okay.
because I think, I mean, maybe it's certainly biased because it's when I got really into music.
Yeah, that's true.
And, you love the stuff you grow up listening to and going to high school.
What are your favorites?
Favorite bands?
Yeah, out of the 210s, like anything that sticks out for you?
I mean, one of the best albums of all time, I think, is Blonde by Frank Ocean. I think that album is incredible. What was that, 2016 it came out? I love Radiohead, but they're across decades, which I think is really impressive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to really say. I just love so many artists. I love what everyone is doing. And I had this conversation with one person on the show, and he had a really interesting point about until like the 2010s, pretty much every 15 years, like if you were in the 80s and showed somebody in the 60s or the early 70s what an 80s song was, their heads would like explode. They'd be like, I can't believe music sound like this. 90s, if you did that in the early 80s, people's heads would explode. But not really if you did something in the 2010s and then the early 2000s. But my kind of counter argument was they'd probably be blown away at how accessible it was to make this music for everyone in the world. Because we all can have an audio interface and a microphone.
Exactly. I would say it's more about technology and accessibility than it is about like existence, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the people who are making albums that would reflect a more 70s sound probably didn't have the ability to make it in the industry because like corporate executives are probably like, this is not what people are listening to right now. We're not going to push this because that's a 70s sound. And, we're all listening to fucking disco or whatever we're listening to now. We're all listening to Britney Spears now. And now that we have Spotify and the consumer can decide what they want to listen to, it gives the ability for us to have such flexibility in what we can create as artists. I mean, obviously there's so many pitfalls with Spotify and with other platforms, like the lack of making any money.
Right.
But at least we get to share the music, which is really the primary purpose.
Right. And the internet in general makes the world so much smaller that you can take inspiration from some random like noise metal band in Nigeria who like if you're in Sacramento, how the hell would you ever know about them even 10 years ago? Maybe not 10, but like 15 years ago. Like it's going to be hard as hell to find these crazy inspirations that could not even be bands. They could be like old films that you wouldn't be able to watch if you didn't really have the internet and things like that.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I honestly attribute so much of my music knowledge and my growth as an artist to Tiny Desk concerts. Like just listening to those when I was like just fucking around and whatever in the house, listening to these bands like you said from like Nigeria and all over the world, and how vast and different music is. It really changes how I create. So what a gift.
Truly.
Fucking incredible.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future of music, to see how we consume it and just what people are able to make in the next 15 years. Awesome. Well, Lindsey Bitson, that's it for our episode here on That Note. Thank you for joining me and talking about your new album, Bathing in Yesterday's Fires, which everyone needs to go listen to on Spotify and all the other streaming platforms. And I'm very excited for your new one coming out whenever it does.
Yeah, it'll be a while, but everyone look out.
Look out,
It's
guys.
going to be better than the last one.
Those lyrics are going to be even harsher, so brace yourself.
I know. I'm going to make everyone uncomfortable, so brace yourselves, folks.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait.
Thanks for inviting me.
For coming on.
Everything will be fine.
Thank you again for joining me for another episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and you can even leave a comment down below to let me know who you're listening to. On that note, I'll see you guys next time.
Let's pick better partners next time.